So in today's video, I'm going to discuss how to write a CV, and I'm going to give an outline of this particular document to help you create a CV. Now there are many permutations and combination of this document, but this is my approach after doing a lot of research on CV writing. So let's start. So I think the first thing is that you should always date a CV, because your CV will be a PDF file floating around on the internet, and people should know that this particular document comes with a timestamp. So this date goes on the first page, top left hand side. Then you should write curriculum vitae in the center, top, because I believe that you should mention what exactly is the document. For example, if you are writing a technical report, you will write somewhere that this is a technical report. So this is a curriculum vitae, and so you should mention curriculum vitae. This can be in 12-point font. Below this curriculum vitae, you write your name, and this name can be in bold and it can be 14 or 16-point font. The rest of the document is going to be in 12-point font. After this, you give the institution name, maybe the department, and a contact mail or a phone number. Now, in many cases, you may not want to give a phone number if you do not want to share it with the public at large, because if you are posting this particular document on the web or on a job site, then you may just give your mailing details. Following this, I think it is a good idea to give a bunch of keywords based on your research. So you can write research, semicolon, and then give a bunch of keywords. For example, if you are working in machine learning, computational mechanics, smart structures, flight mechanics, and so on, these keywords can help people locate exactly what you are an expert in. So again, in all these cases, the first thing like research would be in bold, then the remaining things would be in normal type. Following this, you can give your predilections with regard to teaching. So you can mention teaching. Then again, you can give a set of courses which you can teach. So the advantage of this is that the committee immediately sees what are the contributions which you can make at the university or the institution. Following this, you start education section, and here you give your PhD, master's, BS degrees, the college, the dates. The date should be the dates of graduation, and here you can give the month / the year. Then experience, again you have to give the dates, the positions, and the institutions. Following this, you can give some details about visiting positions. If you are in a permanent positions and you have been visiting various places, in visiting positions you could give, for example, visiting professorship, fellowships which you have gone for, such as Humboldt or Fulbright and so on. So again, in all these cases, you can mention the institutions, the dates, and the details about the position you have got. For example, if it was a visiting professor, a Humboldt fellow, Fulbright fellow, and so on. Following this, you can give about your honors and prizes. So essentially here you can give information about your best paper awards, your fellowships of academies, and so on. Now following this, I would say you can give some detail about your editorial duties if you have any. So editor, and then you can give the name of the journal, the period during which you have been managing aspects of this journal, and so on. Following this, I would say there are 3 big sections: research, teaching, and service. And then the CV ends. So let's look at each of these. So in research, you essentially start with research. Then straight away and on top, you give impact of research. And here you give your scientometric information from Google Scholar, Web of Science, and Scopus in terms of your number of citations, number of publications, and H-index. And in the case of Google Scholar, also your I-10 index. Following this, you give publications, and this is the publication list. Here you can give your books first, then you can give papers in refereed journal, in reverse chronological form. That means the most recent paper comes first. So on top of this list, papers which are accepted but not yet published will be there, and then below the papers which are more old will be there. So at the end of this list, your first paper will be there, which was published a long time ago. Now, one of the reasons for preferring the reverse chronological format is that there is a saying that you are only as good as your last paper. So work which you have done 5 years ago, 10 years ago, or certainly 30 years ago is pretty stale now. You need to archive it in your CV, but you do not need to put it up front. Now, following the journal publications, you can give papers published in conference proceedings. And here again, you follow the same outline, reverse chronological. You need to give your name, the name of people you wrote the papers with, the details about the title, the conference, and the dates. So in all these cases, you always make it a point to give the dates properly, because one of the things people look at in a CV is the sequence of things which you have done with respect to dates. Following this, you can give book chapters if you have any, patents, any computer software you have developed. Now you come to the section on grants and contracts. And here you give the name of the people who have funded you, the name of the project, the year, any co-investigators who helped you in doing this project, and in some cases you can give the quantity of funds you have received from this body. Now this information can be confidential, so you may not need to put it in a generic CV which you put up on the internet, but if you are applying for a position, this kind of information may be useful. Then you come to talks, and here you split it into keynote talks, invited talks, and research talks. So keynote talks are talks which you have given at certain conferences where you have been called specifically to give these talks. The invited talks are talks which you are sometime called for in conferences and symposiums and workshops, as well as at different universities. And research talks will be talks which you have volunteered to give at different institutions. So again, remember that you are always giving the most competitive stuff first, then the less competitive ones later. But one of the objectives of the CV is to document all the things you have done, not only for the purpose of people who see your CV, but for yourself, because after a few years you may not exactly remember what you did, which talk you gave. So the research talks and all will be clearly outlined in your CV, and you will be able to remember these things. Then you come to graduate student supervision, and here you give PhD degrees first, master's degrees next, and UG student projects next. And here in each of these cases you list the name of the student, the title of the thesis, and the year. Now for UG students, you can give only the students whose projects you have guided, and in some cases if you are supervising some students who have written papers, you can mention those student names also and mention that they have published a paper through their work. Following this, you end the research section and you come to the teaching section. So in the teaching section, you should give institution where you have taught, the course number, the course name, month and year, and also mention if you have taught this course with somebody. Some people also mention the number of students here. Now, if you have taught at one institution, this will be the institution name and followed by the set of courses you have taught. If you have taught at several institutions, you can list all of these institutions here. Followed by your institutional teaching, you can list any short courses you have taught, any education programs you have taken part in, and so on. Once you have given the teaching aspects, then you come to service. So here you can give information about service you have done to department and university. Maybe you have taken part in selection committees, maybe you have been a convener of certain centers, and so on. You can also give different design reviews which you may have done for companies or research places. You could give your service in setting up some national examinations in professional bodies such as IEEE, and then as conference chair and conference committee member. Then you basically end your CV. And the CV should be a 12-point font document, preferably using Calibri, which is best in the internet system. And I don't recommend that you give personal details at the end of your CV, which some people do, such as date of birth, whether they are married, whether they have children, and so on. Now, these details are not necessarily a part of your professional life, and in some countries, it may not even be legal to give your age because you may be trying to show people that you are too young or you are appropriate age for the job. And many countries and selection committees do not nearly really want to know this piece of information. They want to select a candidate completely on merit. But one possible scenario which may be advantageous to you is that if you are a female student, then you may want to mention somewhere that you are a female student, and that may help you in the position because there is a lot of emphasis on increasing the diversity, particularly in technical fields. So if your name is such that it is a gender neutral name, then you may mention somewhere that you are active in women's societies, or you may mention directly as a footnote that you are a female. So these are some aspects I had for you today about writing a CV. And again, some of the general things to remember are that CV is a document in which the first part of the CV is more competitive, the less competition part is in the secondary half of the CV. Also, one of the interesting things in life is that your CV first increases and then later it decreases, because some of the eminent experts in the field start dropping off some of those service components and all later in life, because you will see if somebody has won a Nobel Prize in physics or in any discipline, you will find their CVs will basically list the prizes and the journal publications. They don't even bother about listing conference publications and so on. But some people who are struggling for papers may even mention technical reports and such detail. So again, this is a subjective issue. You always want to put up a face which is best for you. So there is nothing wrong in giving more information if you are weak in something else. But again, don't pad your CV up with material which is redundant, which is not competitive, because this is something which most university people are very good at, is using black hat thinking to demolish a CV if they see too much extraneous material in it. So this was my video for you today, and I hope you benefit from this video. Thank you very much for watching it, and stay tuned to my channel.